Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for recovery. Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. So let's focus on aims. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. To aim for something. What could that mean? Is the Florida coast doing? And I imagine by Florida coast they don't mean actual, literal coast, but people living on the coast. Ian refers to the hurricane. I don't know when this will be listened to. So Hurricane Ian was a hurricane in 2022 that hit western Florida, southwestern Florida, stayed in the West Coast. But again, the headline: Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. This is by Jay Reeks from AP from Fort Myers, Florida. An army of 42,000 utility workers has restored electricity to more than 2.5 million businesses and homes in Florida since Hurricane Ian's onslaught. And Brenda Palmer's place is among them. By the government's count, she and her husband Ralph are part of a success story. Yet, turning on the lights in a wrecked mobile home that's likely beyond repair and reeks or smells of dried river mud and mold isn't much solace to people who lost a lifetime of work in a few hours of wind, rain, lightness, and water. Sorting through soggy old photos of her kids in the shaded ruins of her carport, Palmer couldn't help but cry. Quote, everybody says you can't save anything. You know, it's my life. It's my life. It's gone. With the major search for victims over and a large swath or portion of Florida's southwest coast settling in for the long slog of recovering from its first direct hit from a major hurricane in a century, residents are bracing for what will be months, if not, or maybe years of work. Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for recovery. Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. And let's focus on aims. To aim for something. The Florida coast is aiming for Ian recovery. So what could that mean? Let's keep that in mind when we're reading the story here. So this is by Jay Reeks from AP News. And Ian recovery. Ian was a hurricane, right? I'm not sure when you'll be listening to this. Ian was a hurricane that hit the western Florida coast in 2022, and it was a pretty bad one. So, again, the headline, Search for Victims Done. Florida Coast Aims for Ian Recovery by Jay Reeks from the AP. In Fort Myers, Florida, here we go. An army of 42,000 utility workers has restored electricity to more than 2.5 million businesses and homes in Florida since Hurricane Ian's onslaught, and Brenda Palmer's place or house is among them. By the government's count, she and her husband Ralph are part of a success story. Yet, turning on the lights in a wrecked mobile home that's likely beyond repair and reeks or smells of dried river mud and mold isn't much solace to people who lost a lifetime of work in a few hours of wind, rain, and rising seawater. Sorting through the soggy old photos of her children or kids in the shaded ruins of her carport, Palmer couldn't help but cry. Quote, "Everybody says you can't save everything, Mom. You know, it's my life. It's my life. It's gone." End quote. So going back to the beginning and the headline, search for victims done, Florida coast, which includes this woman and her husband, Brenda and Ralph Palmer. They are aiming for recovery. What could that mean? Aiming for recovery after a hurricane smashes your house, or aiming for recovery after a difficult economic period. What could that mean? To aim for something. Okay, we're back for a second segment. Our headline in this episode is or was search for victims done. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. Search for victims done. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. The phrasal verb we focused on was to aim for something. To aim for something. What does it mean to aim for something? Or if you're in an interview and someone asks, hey, professionally, what are you aiming for in this position, in this current job that you are applying for? What are your aims? What are you aiming for? So to aim for something is to make something your objective, to have a desired outcome, a goal, right? Florida coast aims for Hurricane Ian, right? Ian is a name of a hurricane. We name our storms in the U.S., the big ones. Florida coast aims for Ian recovery. Recovery meaning to recover, to get back to normal, to fix the broken parts and get back to something normal, back to health. So search for victims done. Florida coast is aiming for Hurricane Ian recovery. What else can we pick out of these few sentences from the AP article? Wrecked. W-R-E-C-K-E-D. Wrecked. Let's see if I can find this here. I can't find it. Where is wrecked? Army of 40,000 utility workers has restored electricity. Homes, Hurricane Ian's onslaught. I should mention onslaught actually before wrecked. An army of 42,000 utility workers, so electricity, right, gasoline, gas stations, but mostly electricity or gas connections in the home or in buildings, has restored electricity to more than 2.5 million businesses since Hurricane Ian's onslaught. Onslaught is like a destruction, a beating, a brutal destruction. And if you've seen pictures, you can Google now, or when you're in a position to use a computer or the Google search, Hurricane Ian, I-A-N, destruction. And some of the images are very difficult to look at because it is an onslaught. It's total destruction of a few places. So here's wrecked. Yet, turning on lights in a wrecked mobile home that's likely beyond repair. So a wrecked mobile home, or What if I told you my car is wrecked? Hey, Mom, my car is wrecked. I need you to come pick me up. Or, oof, I spilled coffee on my laptop, on my notebook. It's completely wrecked. Oh, no. Destroyed, ruined, in disrepair, bad, deteriorating, or completely deteriorated, not in good condition, broken. What else can we have here? Reeks. Reeks is in the same sentence. An wrecked mobile home that's likely beyond repair and reeks of dried river mud. Or dried river yucky. We'll use the word I use with my 2-year-old, yuck. So reeks. What does it mean if something reeks as a verb? It reeks. Smells. Smells. Smells bad too, not smells good. If we in English, if we say something smells, generally that doesn't mean good. We don't say, if someone tells you that you smell, yeah, they're not saying you stink with the words you stink, but they're saying you stink. To something, if something smells, it's always interpreted as weird, bad, funky, stinky, yucky, and not good. So the wrecked mobile home reeks of dried river, right? And that might not make sense if you've never seen any of the images of a hurricane or the aftermath, right? The after effects of a hurricane. Or in Brazil, there's lots of inundações, right? Inundations. We have the word in English, but we say floods. So if you've seen images or have experienced the moments, days, or hours, or days after a flood, you know this smell. You know what it looks like, right? So that's when they're saying that the wrecked mobile home, quite literally a home that is mobile with wheels, reeks of dried river mud or yuck. What else do we have here? Solace. Same sentence, right? This is a heavy hitting sentence. Reeks of dried river mud and mold, or what is mold? Mold. This one I know. Mold. I'm gonna use the translator here. This is criminal, but and it kills me more than anything. Bafo, right? Is it bafo? Mofo. Bafo. Bafo would be breath. Mofo. Mofo. So reeks of dried river mud and mofo, or mold. Turning on the lights is not much solace to people who lost a lifetime of work in a few hours of wind, rain, and rising seawater. It's not much solace to just have your lights back on. So what does that mean? It's not much solace to, hey, the lights work, but what's the, everything's destroyed. The smell, everything that's not destroyed is soaked or wet and smelly. So solace would be comfort, consolation, peace, usually from a bad or distressful or sad moment, right? And usually when you have a bad or sad or low or distressful moment, solace can be something small. Maybe not lights turning on, but someone very close to you passes away or dies, and a neighbor or a friend, cooks you food and brings it to you, every day for a month or something. That's a little bit of solace. Neighbors helping each other after a hurricane, finding pets and animals and pictures of family, right? Photo albums. That is solace. That's something that's good in a very, very bad moment. I don't know if this word is the same in Portuguese, so let me check actually again. Let me consult our trusted solace. Consolo, consolation. Anything else here that I could identify? There's an expression, I believe. Palmer couldn't help but cry. Palmer couldn't help but cry. So, what could that mean if someone couldn't help but do something? In this case, Palmer is one of the people talking about the destruction of their life, their home, all of their stuff. And the sentence that I read in the explanation in the AP Associated Press article was, sorting through soggy or wet old photos of her kids in her carport, Palmer couldn't help but cry. She couldn't resist. Couldn't resist. So often we see this expression like, I saw, it was raining out. I was driving my car. It was raining. I saw a man outside or a woman or person outside walking with their child in the rain. I couldn't help but stop and ask, hey, do you need a ride? Hey, get in the car. I'll take you. Where are you going? I couldn't help but give them a ride. So I couldn't resist. Or, it's late at night and I'm on a diet, but I opened the refrigerator. I saw the tortilla cookies, and I couldn't help but take 5. So couldn't help but do something. Couldn't as in the modal COULDN'. Couldn't help but io verbo. In this case, it was cry. That's it. There's, predictably, there's nothing else that I looked at that would be terribly difficult here. So again, maybe I'm skipping or missing or overlooking some items or words, but you can help me there. So anything I missed, please point it out, identify it, and reach out or contact me. Questions from this article. Considering your current career position or trajectory, what are you ultimately aiming for professionally? So this is about the phrasal verb at the beginning. It's not related to the hurricane, but just, again, considering your current career position or job and your trajectory, what are you ultimately aiming for professionally? What are your goals? What are your aims professionally? Number 2, have you or someone in your family or a friend ever lost everything and had to restart? What was that like? Have you or someone in your family or a friend ever lost everything, like this Palmer family and this hurricane and many other families? Have you ever lost everything and had to restart your life? What was that like? What was that like for you or for the people that you know? Number 3, why do you think people choose to stay in their neighborhood or location after losing everything in a natural disaster? Right? Some of these places, this is a recurring, this happens more than once in some of these areas. Sometimes it's the first time, and it maybe never happens again. But again, number 3, why do you think people choose to stay in their neighborhood or location after losing everything to a natural disaster, especially if it's not the first time? What are your thoughts? Why do people choose to stay rather than go, hey, you know what? Maybe a little bit too risky. I'm going to move. And number 4, our last question. Does climate change, a mudança de clima, does climate change have any impact in how you decide where to live or possibly move to or travel to? Does climate change, a mudança de clima, does climate change have any impact in how you decide where to live or how you decide where to move to in the future or start a family? Or in the other sense, how you decide where to travel to, right, on vacation. You travel to Florida, you might end up in a hurricane in one of these moments. And there are other areas too where if you travel, I have some students who've been through hurricanes in New York and on the East Coast, just out of bad luck, right? You travel somewhere, it's hurricane season, and boof, there you go. You're stuck in a hurricane. Those are the questions. That is the end of the segment. And again, any reflections or thoughts, any of your answers to the questions or the article, anything I missed in reading the 3 sentences or the headline that's confusing or unfamiliar, or any questions at all or comments, especially in English, please leave them for me somewhere that you can find me.